Hello everyone, welcome back to YK Reviews. With the Loki season finale just airing and just finishing up, we got loads to talk about here, so let's get into it. Now with Loki season 2, with the title of this video thumbnail, you saw it here, is this show a diamond in the rough? With a lot of Marvel shows and Marvel movies, it's very hit and miss when it comes to shows. I personally feel like Loki is one of the better shows, and season 2 after the finale has kind of just cemented this as being up there as the top MCU Disney Plus show, that is, along with like WandaVision coming in very close second for me in my personal opinion. And with this show, it really exceeded expectations. So after the finale, they confirmed that season 3 isn't going to happen, and this of course is going to be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the show, honestly highly recommend going and checking it out. Coming back to the review here, because we're going to be talking about spoilers here, and obviously after the end of season 2, after the finale here, I'm not really sure where they could go after what they did and how they wrapped up everything here. Tom Hiddleston, and I'll talk about it in the positives and in the review itself, but what a performance and what a final shot with that closing of the series finale, of the season finale here. But since they aren't going to go for a season 3, which honestly is kind of gutting because I really do like this show, I do hope that this isn't the last we see of Loki, and I'm hoping that we do see him in other projects, probably in the King Dynasty movie, probably in Secret Wars. There has been rumors and speculation that Loki is going to be reuniting with Thor eventually in a future project, so I don't know if this will be the last we see of Loki. I highly doubt it. But with the show overall, this for me is what has been missing when it comes to like the Disney Plus shows. Like, I'm going to be comparing this to Secret Invasions, for example. You have 6 episodes with Loki. The runtimes and the pacing of these episodes in the show was just executed so perfectly. Like, this finale was 58 minutes, including credits, I believe. And the finale never felt rushed like it did for Secret Invasions, like it did for Moon Knight, like it did for other Disney Plus shows when it comes to Marvel side of things here. This was just executed very well. It was going through in terms of the pacing, in terms of the story, in such a perfect manner that you didn't feel after watching this like, oh, this was rushed. You didn't feel underwhelmed or anything like that. Yeah, there are a couple of questions that you have after watching the finale, but nothing where it's like, okay, this didn't really answer anything, this just felt rushed, and that's what I really enjoy about Loki. Now, of course, one of the major positives when it comes to this show is the performance and the cast in the show, especially in season 2. We've got the new characters of OB, who I really hope we see more of him in the MCU. He was a brilliant character with the line deliveries, with like the back and forth with Mobius and with Loki, and even just some of the comedic timing too was honestly just a chef's kiss with him. He really nailed it in his role in the performance as OB. Jonathan Majors, now again, despite everything outside of MCU and personal stuff going on, I'm not going to talk about that. This is just strictly just his performances in Loki. His performance as Victor Timely was just a masterpiece, with you wanting to root for the guy, especially when it comes to him versus Miss Minutes and Ravonna Renslayer, like that core emotion you had. And when he comes face to face with Sylvie, giving that speech about how he's not like He Who Remains. I just loved Jonathan Majors' performance. I really enjoyed episode 3. One of my favorites in the season 2 was episode 3 with the introduction of Victor Timely. But then you get this whole other range, whole other dynamic with He Who Remains. Jonathan Majors' performance as He Who Remains in the finale in episode 6 with Loki. And you just get that fearful presence of him. With his performances, he's not fighting Loki, he's not doing hand-to-hand combat, but it's just the way he's delivering that dialogue, the way he's just performing in this role. You really have that fear factor with him, and I just loved what he was bringing to the table as Victor Timely, as He Who Remains. I kind of wish we got to see more different varieties of Kang, but I don't know if it's because of like the outside circumstances or if it's just because they wanted to focus on these 2 variants of Kang. I'm honestly not sure, but it would have been great to see more variants of Kang. But Jonathan Majors a huge standout, and of course you've got the rest of the cast with Mobius, Hunter B-15 and Sylvie, along with Casey. Like, you really got to explore their characters. I love the backstory. When you've got Casey in episode 5, you see him escaping Alcatraz, you got to see Mobius's backstory, you got to see Hunter B-15's backstory, so you're really having that focus on those characters. And while I do have like a little bit of a negative when it comes to Mobius in terms of like the jet ski reveal and that backstory, for me, I kind of wish I wanted more from that rather than the way that it was delivered when it comes to like his jet ski and the reveal for that one. So I kind of wanted more for that, but that's just like a really minor nitpick. Other than that, I really loved the storyline of what they were going with here from episode 1. And you have sort of like, for me as a Doctor Who fan, you really have a lot of comparison with Doctor Who in terms of like the time travel, in terms of the space element, in terms of that kind of stuff. You do get a lot of comparisons with Doctor Who, but I really like what they did with it, from going from episode 1, bringing scenes from episode 1 back in later on in episodes when you find out that Loki is the one that pruned himself, and Sylvia with the elevator sequence. You have the exploration of Loki doing the whole time jumping that was introduced in the first episode, bringing it all the way back to episode 6. So in episode 4 or 5 with the time jumping, he's now able to learn how to do it. And I really loved what they were doing with that and how that was being developed, from not going for like Groundhog Day, but kind of similar in terms of like the events being repeated, Loki having to just go through all of these actions and motions to try and stop this loom from exploding, stop the TVA being destroyed. And of course, Loki's character arc, like Tom Hiddleston's performance in this, you honestly just have to give huge praise to Tom Hiddleston. Like, I love what Loki is doing, because in terms of the other shows, most of them don't have that character arc that you're developing throughout each episode, because you only have 6 episodes, so it's kind of hard to space out every single episode and develop these characters. But with Loki, with this season in particular, and how he has developed this friendship with these characters from the TVA, and him as like a person, how he's developed, how he's grown from when we saw him in the first season, first episode after the events of the Avengers 2012 movie, and how he is right now, the way he's just developing as a character, how he's just becoming this hero. I loved what they were doing when it comes to the writing of Loki. It was just such a brilliant way of executing his character, and that for me is just a huge praise when it comes to that. And that's why I don't want the finale when it comes to Loki, that being his final chapter in the MCU. I really do hope we get to see more of him. In terms of like negatives and nitpicks when it comes to the show, I kind of wish we got to see more of, in terms of like the TVA. So we got to explore more of the interrogation rooms, the war room, but what we saw in episode 1 when it comes to like Loki's time slipping, him going into these rooms, interacting with these other TVA characters, I wish we kind of got to see more of that in this show, in this series, because we didn't really explore too much when it comes to the TVA. We found out there's a pie room, we found out about the interrogation tactics that they have, but not really much in terms of the exploration of the actual TVA itself. So I kind of wish they developed that a little bit more. And also in terms of what they were building when it comes to Loki and Sylvie and that kind of relationship, I felt like was kind of put on the back burner a little bit with this season. That really wasn't developed or explored too much. I get that they had like this difference of opinion when it comes to He Who Remains, but then in terms of like their relationship and their bonding, that was not really explored too much. So kind of a small minor nitpick with that. And also I kind of wish they had more scenes when it comes to events taking place outside of like the sacred timeline, because you kind of got to see that a little bit when Loki and Mobius chased after the character Brad, I believe his name was, when you got to see that. I can't remember what the exact year it was in, but you kind of explored that a little bit when you're in the cinema theaters. You're getting Loki and Mobius chasing this character, but from that to then Victor Timely in Chicago, I don't really remember much in terms of like them exploring different times and different eras in the show. I kind of wish they did more of that, because they did that in season 1. They went to apocalypses, they went to different planets, they went to different timelines, but we didn't really get to see that too much in terms of this season. But that doesn't take away from what an amazing show this is when it comes to the storyline, when it comes to the direction, when it comes to the character arcs and the character development, and also when it comes to like the episodes too, because you got to explore Miss Minutes and Ravonna Renslayer as the 2 villains. And when they were explored, man, what a performance when it comes to Miss Minutes. Like, she was so threatening and intimidating, and you really get caught off guard with how much of a villain she is. I loved what they did with her, especially in episode 3, especially when it comes to like that mannequin and you have her face over the mannequin, imagining how she could become a real person. What a story arc when it comes to that. However, I will say that Ravonna Renslayer wasn't really much in this season as much as I thought she was going to be. So we got to see her in episode 3 as she's going after Victor Timely with Miss Minutes. She then comes back with Miss Minutes. They see her exploring He Who Remains, like this corpse from the finale of season 1, and then after that she gets pruned into the void, which we sort of got a glimpse of it at the end of the episode 6, the finale. We sort of got to see her. We didn't really explore too much of her when it comes to her character, so I thought we were going to get to see a bit more of that. And with season 3, like, I'm not sure when we will be seeing her again, possibly in King Dynasty and how she's going to be developed. But I really liked what they were doing with Miss Minutes as a character and a persona in itself, and just that threatening presence too, as she's taking over the TVA. But of course, you have to talk about the finale, like that emotional gripping. The whole season was just an emotional roller coaster with the performances, especially with Loki, with Tom Hiddleston. But then that finale too, like, man, you just have yourself on the edge of your seat watching this show. And like I said, with the runtime being 58 minutes with this finale, I feel like they executed everything so perfect. Within the first 5 to 10 minutes, you have, like I said, this little Groundhog Day feature, a bit of comedy in there too, when Loki is learning about mechanics and that kind of stuff, how it took centuries for him to learn that, and then just going through all these motions. I just loved the execution for it. And then that scene between him and He Who Remains, that bit of dialogue, that bit of back and forth, and of course with Loki, what he does, how you would describe what Loki did with the finale, but with him now it looks like he's inside the branches with this tree of all the timelines. But I just loved that execution, especially as he's like walking towards the loom, how he's transforming himself from with his jacket and his like TVA outfit to going into like this god mode with like the green robes, the horns, the slippers. It was really well executed and just a really fantastic show overall. So like I said in the thumbnail, like I said in the title of this video, this really is like a diamond in the rough when it comes to MCU Disney Plus shows, and honestly definitely worth checking out if you haven't already. But I want to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you have seen it, what your thoughts are about the finale, what your thoughts are about overall season 2. Where would you rank this in the MCU Disney Plus shows? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you are new to the channel, definitely consider subscribing, as we do tons of these kind of videos along with like weekly entertainment news videos and tier ranking videos. So please consider hitting that subscribe button, smashing that like button, and also hitting the notification bell so that you're not missing out on that. But I thank you so much for watching. I thank you so much for listening. This is YK Reviews. Peace.